Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Dizzle. It's Tuesday, June 28th, 2011. Tommy Dizzlemits here, as always. We thank you guys for making time in your busy schedule to catch what we've got to say about the latest entertainment news. Hopefully you had an enjoyable Monday night. Maybe you made time to see the Weeds premiere. Maybe you're saving it for later in the week. Maybe you're waiting until it gets posted online. Whatever the case may be, we're going to wait till later in the week to review it, considering the episode's not even 24 hours old, so we don't want to be the assholes who are spoiling it for the people who actually, want to see it and want to see what happens instead of hearing about what happens. But as is, we have our summer scorecard series. We're going to start that today. We have to split up into a few parts, so part 1 will be today, part 2 will be tomorrow. We have analysis of every movie that's come out so far this summer, and we're ranking them from the worst performers all the way to the top. Top performers are only the top money makers. It's not necessarily the ones that have broken even on their budgets. So without further ado, let's join a pre-recorded Tommy Dizzlemits already in progress. Now we're finally going to get to what we've been trying to get to for like 3 weeks now. The biggest performers of the summer. Originally we were going to have it split in half and half the movies be on the bad side and half be on the good side. But really, most of the movies aren't performing exceptionally well. They're just doing, about the business that was expected out of them. You go down to the list, and only 7 out of the top 10 have crossed $100 million. When usually, at this point in the year, you've had 7 movies cross like the $200 million mark. So it's a little bit weak of a year at the box office. Really, there haven't been too many straight outright bombs. The movies are either, performing in the range of expectedness, even if it's not, huge expectations. It's just, oh, well, we're going to get our money back. There are a few movies that have kind of just dropped off the map very, very quickly. The first weekend of the summer opened with Thor, so of course to try and counteract the comic book action movie crowd, you had 2 movies that appealed to girls. Unfortunately, both had wedding themes to them. You can have multiple movies coming out like that, in a couple week span. But if you're going to have essentially the same movie coming out in 2 different forms, you have Something Borrowed, which had, the cast of The Office and House and other people, and you had Jumping the Broom, which looked like the same damn movie, just with a minority cast instead. That's why both movies essentially opened to about 15, 16 million, and have both kind of trailed off at the $40 million mark. They could have at least done twice that business if they had held one out till like later in the summer. But still, whatever. I'm not the one running these companies. I just can tell you how things happen, and that's exactly what happened with those 2. So they didn't make too much of a splash, despite the fact that one of them was based on a book. Speaking of movies based on books, Judy Moody and the Not Bummer Summer was based off of a little kids book series, trying to attempt to launch a new awesome based on a book movie. The last kids book, that turned into a movie like along those lines of, oh, it's going to be realistic. How to Eat Fried Worms. And that movie didn't even make $10 million at the box office. At least Judy Moody opened to like 6 and it's on at 13 right now. But it still has a $20 million budget, meaning that they've already lost money on that. But the biggest bomb of the summer has to be Priest, based on a comic book. It was a 3D action movie with vampires and a priest killing them or whatever the fuck was going on. It made only half its budget back by the time it was done on the North American side of things. Did a little bit bigger business on the rest of the world, but still, they're lucky if it makes back its budget at all. So far, those are the real big bombs, and the only other movie to not crack the list was Mr. Popper's Penguin last weekend. And that's just typically, in the Jim Carrey range of, meh, I'm gonna half-ass it, but, 20 million opening, at least 60 million by the end of it. It still made money. Yay, Jim Carrey. So, now that we can get into the list, despite the fact that it's only been out for 3 days at this point, Cars 2 has made, a little bit more money in 3 days than a lot of the other movies have made the whole summer. And that's why it's already at the number 10 spot on our top 10 list of the movies performing this summer. Number 9 is Green Lantern, despite the fact that it had a little bit soft of an opening. 53 million was not what they were expecting. So for anyone who's good with math skills, let's put this in perspective. Spent 200 million on the actual movie and 100 million on advertising. Brings the price tag to 300 million. They've made not even 100 million in 10 days, and usually at about, the week and a half, 2 week mark, that's about half your box office right there. So let's just estimate it at 100 and double that. They're going to be lucky if they make 200 million on the American side of things, and it's not performing good around the rest of the world. There's a backlash in Australia for the fact that, there's not really any 3D theaters down there. So they're not at the American oversaturated point of, we're sick of 3D movies while they're pissed that they can't get their 3D movies on time. On top of that, the fact that the special effects couldn't be completed in time to do a massive day-and-date worldwide rollout means that it's been opening, a week off, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off in other places in the world, and it's just not opening well there. So I don't get why they're going to be losing money on this one, but they're already prepared to sink more money into a sequel that could potentially do worse. Maybe it's just the fact that they're reminded with all the action figures lining the shelves in the stores that, oh, we really did put a lot of effort into this. So at the end of the summer, when, the action figure sales come in for Green Lantern, maybe all this news about a sequel going into work might be making more sense, because the first one is definitely not giving them the reason to move ahead for a second. But back to the top 10 list. At number 8, Super 8 takes that spot. I did not plan that at all. If you want to go by the numbers, it's sitting at just under $100 million right now. It'll end up crossing that mark sometime this week. So it's earned its spot. At number 7, X-Men First Class. It's the weakest opening of the X-Men movies, and it's the weakest performing of them. But, compared to the comic book movies this summer, Green Lantern's been doing worse than it. So still has the brand reliability there. Fox just should know next time, don't be selling the ads with, oh, Blue Naked Lady. Tell us some of the story. But maybe they knew the fact that, oh, this is a story that we kind of established in the first X-Men. Now we're just going to go really, really into detail with it. You can't do that if you want people to come back and be like, oh, I hadn't seen this before. Instead, you'll just give them the feeling of deja vu and piss them off a little bit. That does it for part 1 of the Dizzlemits Summer Scorecard. Be sure to tune back here tomorrow for part 2 of the list. We'll run through the rest of the top 10, let you know what the biggest breakout hit of the summer is. And be sure to keep it tuned here all week long. We'll have the Weeds review at some point. On top of that, we'll also have news coming out if this is going to be the last season or not. For the show creator, it might be, but the cast isn't going with his logic on it. On top of that, there's also news coming out about some awesome cameos that you can expect later in the season. So we got a lot going on this week. Keep it locked here. For the Daily Dizzle, I'm Tommy Dizzlemits. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.